I don't know if I chose music or music chose me, but for me it's a medium that cuts through so many things. Music is something that brings people together, and I love using music as a way to reach people, but on a very personal level. So my music is very personal for me, and it's an instrument that I try and use to connect people with not just the music, but with the God that's behind the music.
In November 2018, a group of diverse and gifted songwriters and worshippers came together at Harmony, situated in Franschhoek, to be inspired. Harmony, meaning a place of change, strives to bring about change in people's lives by creating a safe environment to facilitate a relationship towards greater harmony with God, ourselves and others. Through this journey, Vibrancy, a collective of creatives, was born.
It's such a privilege just to be here. I mean, it's such a beautiful place, and it's been a time of unplugging and just refocusing and being surrounded with so much beauty and silence and the intentionality of getting quiet and resting.
I must say, the process was not the way I thought it would be. I thought it would be a bit more easier. But it's that whole concept of you come here, things are in context, and then there's change that needs to happen. And then then the harmony happens. So I think where I'm at is at the change, which is very uncomfortable. You're writing a type of song that you never thought this is how you're going to write it. So you're learning new skills and new facets about yourself even, and how other people are doing it. So it's been really an amazing journey.
I think you have to come someplace to unload, to be able to re-engage. And I think that's definitely what's been happening here.
In Harmony's tagline is a place for change. And I feel like that's exactly what it is. I experienced change in my soul. I experienced change just by looking at all that God has created in the beauty of the actual space, but also just the spirit of the space. It really feels like a place that's been almost dedicated for a special purpose, and it actually fulfills that purpose. That place of rest, that place of restoration, that place of reconciliation. I've actually encountered all three of those things within the space of a couple of days. So really, in Harmony is really a place for change.
I think that not just the songs are what is beautiful about what came out of the weekend, but the connection between people. And I really think that there are connections here that will endure.
I came here with not really realizing that there's quite a bit of disharmony within me because you're so busy and you're doing the next thing. And I drove in, and it was these beautiful oak trees that welcomes you and says, come, be still and know that I am God. We get so caught up in our own things, but God just wants us to come. And we don't even have to say anything. We don't have to do anything, we just have to be. And for me, being here in Harmony, it was just be.
When I hear harmony, I hear music. And you can't harmonize with something if you don't have a root note. And for me, that is the essence of harmony and disharmony. If you're in disharmony with God, you can't be in harmony with anybody else. And I think that's the amazing thing about this place, is that it points you back towards the melody. And once you know what the melody is, you can figure out how much you need to move to be in harmony with it.
What is needed to move from a place of disharmony to harmony is one, honor. And by honor, I mean to see another person and see the image of God in them. Because the moment we begin to honor somebody else, you begin to give weight to what they have to say. you begin to give weight to their experiences, and you can learn from them, and you can understand their narrative, understand where they are coming from. And so it's important for us to actually begin from a place of honor in order to create that harmony between ourselves.
The process of moving from disharmony to harmony is the process. And the process is not always easy. And I think of something that Christine Kane said, that everything that we want nowadays in today's life, everything has to be instant. But the process is where you take a picture and you have to take it to the dark room where it needs to develop. And that becomes the negative. And when the negative is there, you can see the positive at the end of the day. So I think for all of us, we've gone through different phases of seeing the negative within ourselves and saying, okay, Father, now you have to shine on that so that this can become the positive, and the picture is then presented at the end of the day. There's a song that was written in Afrikaans and Zulu. And now the other day, my daughter came home from school and she said, in history, we were taught that Afrikaans is the oppressor's language. But here, the Zulu comes with the Afrikaans. And it just became this beautiful, harmonious song of hope and freedom for our country.
I think one of our biggest challenges is the fact that the word says, where there is unity, God commands a blessing. So I think the fact that our unity is the thing that is under attack is quite an obvious place to come at us. So I think forgiveness, not just of other people, but of ourselves. I think to keep our eyes on God and to operate in His will. At the end of the day, that's the only thing we can really hope for, you know. And once we're okay with God, we through Him can reach out to other people.
For us as South Africa to build a harmonious future is to put our own thoughts, opinions aside and say, what can I do? Where can I change to bring change?
Honestly, I think the word relationship is a real key, because I think if you have relationship with a parent and you know you're loved by the parent because the parent relates love to you, it changes your whole dynamic. If you have relationship with God, true relationship with God, I'm not talking about religion, I'm not talking about going to church or doing things on a weekly basis that fulfill a script, but I'm talking about really engaging with God as Father, as friend, as Savior, as just a side-by-side companion. I don't know how you cannot be changed. I don't know how you can't hear the will of God or the way of God. And so, I do believe that we are flesh engaging with spirit, but I believe that we were made to be fully spirit and then have the flesh. And somehow with the fall of man, we became more flesh than we became spirit. So I think the problem lies in, if you got more in touch with the spiritual aspects of who God is and listen to the sound of His voice, I just don't think we'd have the dilemma that we have. I am the mother to an adopted son who doesn't match my skin color. But when I took him on, I didn't take him on to solve a problem or to alleviate a problem. I took it on because I could hear the Holy Spirit say, I want to raise a warrior. Do you want to raise a warrior with me? And it just so happened that that warrior has a black face. So I can live in the flesh and all the things that are against us in community or in my household. I can teach us how to have relationship with a king who doesn't see color like we see color. But I think too, it's, we talk about being a light to all nations, and maybe in some small part of my small world, I've been an encouragement to people like it, so I know that it exists, but I'm not out to change the world. I mean, I'd love to, but if I took on the world, that would be a massive task. But I'm out to change my world. And my world has a now beautiful 14-year-old in it. And anybody that comes into our world, I can illuminate our light into, and therefore change the opinion or the traction of other people around us, just simply based on how I walk and how I live it out. And I think maybe that's what Christ did best. He didn't grab 2,400, he grabbed 12. And within the 12, he radicalized the 12 by relationship and by relating with them. In fact, it's somewhere in scripture where it says, he would say all these things to crowds, but then he would take those 12 to the side and he would tell them everything in secret. And I don't know that we would have the legacy of the scriptures if something didn't go down when he took them in secret, because those secrets are now teaching us the walk of Christ, and that shows me that it works.
I think as South Africans, or as a nation, our gift is in our diversity. The gift of God over us, I believe, is really the diversity, the different colors, the different types of people, the different cultures and tribes, the languages, and how we kind of have different experiences having grown up. And so I believe that the place of attack comes specifically within the space of our diversity. So we find like a disunity there, we find racism there, we find tribalism there, because I believe that our gift is in our diversity. And in diversity there is vibrancy. In diversity there are colors, there's brilliance, there's an expression of God that is a rare find.
Sing over me, sweet melodies.
I think the biggest challenge in terms of trying to move people towards harmony is to see the need and then operate out of the need. The best thing I can do for myself and for the country and for God is to find His will for me today, and to find the place that He wants me to operate. Because if I'm there, then He can use me. So for me, it's a lot of people doing a lot of small things and keep doing it over a long period of time.
If my people who are called by my name, would humble themselves and seek my face and pray, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. That's the promise that we've received from God. And His promises are true. And if we take God at His word and we really do that, really bring our country to the feet of the Lord, I believe that is our hope as a nation.
My motto, I guess, finding out what you burn with. I think all of us are made with a wick that really doesn't go out. But a lot of us don't know how to light the wick or how or why the wick burns. And so I always ask people, what do you burn for? And I'm not asking them, what's your gift? What's your talent? Because the common response is, well, I'm a singer, or I'm a writer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a preacher, or I'm this or that. And that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, when you do what it is you are gifted to do, what do you leak into the atmosphere when you do it? And for me, it took a while to find out that whenever I sat down at the piano, my objective was to throw courage into the atmosphere. I wanted people who listened to what I did to feel the courage of the Lord. So if that was my burn, then I had to understand that in the opposite direction would be my attack. So a lot of people can't find what they burn for, and so or they don't know it off the spot. So I usually will say, well, what are you constantly attacked with? And when they turn around and say, I'm sick all the time physically, it's usually something that I can respond to and say, oh, healing is what you burn with. If it's, we talked about South Africa with the team. I said, let's talk about what South Africa burns for. South Africa burns for restoration and unity. So what is South Africa's attack? And it's very, very easy to see why the enemy is so afraid of people being unified, because if people are unified, then he can't split them up.
I see.